He was involved in one of the biggest lobbying scandals to ever hit the nation's capital that led to his disgrace and the conviction of a congressman. Now, after spending 3.5 years in prison for fraud, corruption, and conspiracy, former Washington lobbyist Jack Abramoff is rolling in a new kind of dough. ABC News cameras found Abramoff at his new job, a kosher pizzeria in Baltimore, the city where Abramoff now resides in a halfway house. The owner of Tav Pizzeria told us he hopes Abramoff and his celebrity, or infamy, will be a boom for business.
He's going to help me with marketing, mostly. He has experience in the food business, in the kosher food business. So he understands the business better than anybody coming in completely new.
Making a college student's salary is a long fall from grace for the former Washington power broker who admitted spending millions of dollars on free golf trips and lavish meals for members of Congress in exchange for their influence and votes. As he left court after pleading guilty today, officials said Jack Abramoff had brought corruption to a new level in Washington.
The corruption scheme with Mr. Abramoff is very extensive, and we will continue to follow it wherever it leads.
Officials say his bribery scheme included free trips to the Super Bowl, to this golf resort in Scotland, and to islands in the South Pacific. Among the recipients, Congressman Tom DeLay, seen here in a flowered hat, arriving in the South Pacific and being hugged by a then-bearded Abramoff. And DeLay was only one of dozens who took the lobbyist trips and campaign contributions.
There are going to be any number of members of Congress who are not going to get a good night's sleep tonight. This is a blockbuster of a corruption scandal, one that is likely to reach deeply inside Congress.
Federal authorities tell ABC News Abramoff began providing details more than a year ago of his campaign contributions and dealings with a long list of senators and congressmen. Joining me now is Ellen Miller of the Sunlight Foundation, one of Washington's most prominent and effective public interest advocates who has long tracked the Abramoff corruption scandal. Ellen, we talked about a long list of congressmen, of names that Abramoff might provide. What happened to that long list?
Well, it's a really good question, Brian. We've not seen that long list. I mean, and here we have a man who has gotten out of jail after 3.5 years for essentially having been convicted of bribing the U.S. Congress. I mean, it almost shows that crime does pay. You know, without sort of real-time disclosure of what lobbyists do, citizens are left in the dark about what happens in the nation's capital and, frankly, in all their state capitals as well.
There was at least one congressman who was convicted,
yes,
Bob Ney. But after that?
After that, it just fell away. I mean, it seems to me that someone, like the prosecutors, got taken for a ride.
Or was the corruption scandal overblown, perhaps? Did we make too much of it at the time? Maybe it wasn't there?
Yeah, I think the opposite is actually true. I mean, I think the corruption that is really systemic to Washington, that there were lots of paper trails, and, you know, it's often hard to prove the negative. And so I think eventually people got tired of pursuing the case, and, you know, Jack Abramoff got off pretty easily.
And was this a failure then of the Justice Department going after others who were very close to Abramoff? I mean, he was a powerful man on the Hill.
He was a very powerful man on the Hill, and I think it's a confluence of interest, frankly. Lots of lobbyists do perfectly legitimate lobbying, presenting their corporations' clients, their cases. But Jack Abramoff did not. He used every trick in the book to essentially bribe congressmen. And it was a dirty, rotten scandal, the worst I think we've seen in many a generation. But somehow he managed to get off pretty much scot-free.
Is there now a new Jack Abramoff?
Well, hard to say. You know, without real-time reporting of lobbying activities, we usually don't know about these things until they've passed or until they've blown up. What I suspect is that there's a lot of nefarious ways that lobbyists have of plying their business, not the least of which is a recent court decision that allows them to spend endless amounts of money, unlimited amounts of money, in political campaigns without real-time reporting. We hope that that will be fixed.
You talk about real-time reporting. What does the Sunlight Foundation believe should be the case?
Well, we think lobbyists should report every single day, who they contacted and what they talked about.
Every single day?
Every single day. You know, it's just...
Lobbyists for the Boy Scouts of America?
Absolutely.
For Red Cross?
Absolutely, particularly any large organizations. You know, every single one of the lobbyists have their Blackberries, they have their smartphones, they keep their calendars that way. Literally, with the click of a button, that information could all be compiled in a database that citizens could look at every single day. So we'd know in real time who was lobbying whom and what they were actually talking to them about.
After Abramoff, there were some revisions to the ethics laws. Did it change much?
Well, it did change some things. I mean, it has tamped down on the meals and the social occasions. But with every law that Congress writes with respect to ethics, where there's a will, there's a way. And there are plenty of opportunities still for members and lawmakers to get together, to socialize, to develop those kinds of friendly relationships that leave lawmakers beholden to special interests.
So that coziness continues to exist.
It is the heart and soul of Washington.
And at the moment, somewhat legal.
And at the moment, you know, the problem with the system is not what's illegal, it's what's legal and sanctified.
Ellen, thank you very much. Ellen Miller of the Sunlight Foundation.